Hey, just making a quick off-the-cuff video. I've been trying to think of what I can do that's easy for this channel, and one of the things I think I definitely can handle is explanations of tropes. And what better way than to start with the evil overlord list? The top 100 things I'd do if I ever became an evil overlord. Uh, I'll include a list. I think it's by Peter Ansbach. I know a Jason. I know of. He doesn't know me. uh, of a Jason Ansbach. I wonder if they're the same. Family. Anyway, I'm only going to cover the first 10, how you can use them and how you can not make them OP. Because the thing is, if you follow the evil overlord list to a T, um, guess what's gonna happen? Your book will be not very fun. Uh, you can make it very fun if you put a lot of effort into it, but honestly, this covers so many different things that it's just not gonna work. So what I'm going to do is do a quick description of them and describe how you can use it without ruining your reader's experience nor the heroism of your heroes. Number 1. My legions of terror will have helmets with clear plexiglass visors, not face-concealing ones. Indeed, this is good advice because it prevents people from stealing your um, legion, knocking out some soldiers and putting on their garb. Ways you can get around it as a plucky hero, or just because you want to use it, make sure your overlord's smart before the heroes infiltrate. Simply have them, be like, yeah, we're recruits. You know, lie, steal a bit. You know what I mean? Like they will have identification numbers, and if your heroes are smart, they'll be able to figure out what they are. In fact, it's a perfect way to have an espionage or information gathering mission. Oh, you mean all soldiers go in sequence and that there's kind of a delay because they use an antiquated no, they all go in sequence. Yeah, it's like when you have like a million soldiers, you can't really be crazy creative with the numbers. You have to have some sort of system, otherwise it's like, yeah, I'm 0 1 1 1 8 7. I'm 1 8 2 2 4 6. Wait, didn't I come in before you? Yeah. Might be a little confusing. Of course, you can have it sometimes random, but then does your dude have time enough to check? There's all sorts of things you can do while keeping it. Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? I'm new, sir. I just came in from, Karita or something like that. And then it's like, oh yeah, nah, this is a pretty plum gig for your first one. We've all been where you are, especially if you have perfect evil uh, groups. Number 2, my ventilation ducts will be too small to crawl through. That's actually pretty okay. Just be sure that if your ventilation system is too small, like especially on giant space stations, you might have airflow problems. So I've done the numbers to pump enough oxygen, especially if you're doing with a hard sci-fi guy, you know, you need like ventilation systems the size of people. Really? Yeah, unless you want an oxygen factory every floor and every sector. Hmm. Which you can do. That'd be kind of interesting. Have that as part of it because oxygen is very flammable. You can have all the oxygen tanks go off at once, or in a chain reaction explosion. That would, be in itself a very great effect. Not really much to say about this one. My noble half brother, whose throne I usurped, will be killed, not anonymously imprisoned in the forgotten cell of my dungeon. This is actually a great way to have an escape opening. Essentially, the noble half brother has to escape the castle before, jumping into the waterfall. Um, or if he is killed, his death kicks off the plot. It's not very hard to work around at all. In fact, it's a great way to really ante up the drama if you do it right, of course. Number 4, shooting is not too good for my enemies. self-explanatory. Not much else to say about that one. You can have him miss, you can have him hit somewhere non-vital, or you could have him kill it, and then the priestess love interest goes on a rampage, summoning the avatar of her goddess, which would be just right, especially if you have a non-Christian religious system. No, but seriously, like if the angel, the maiden of light gets angry and then summons a legion of angels, that's a good way to take down a villain. Just like it's like she grabs the power amulet, all of a sudden, she's literally calling beams of holy fire down. Excellent. And it's not even like sort of like ruining it with like girl power sort of thing. Like it's arbitrarily, I keep in, I'm very careful to say that, the type of broadsword that they use is perfectly accurate, but also that a woman could wield a two-handed longsword and yet still not look like a giantess. Not that there's anything wrong with giantesses. The artifact, which is number 5, the artifact, which is the source of my power, will not be kept on the mountain of despair beyond the river of fire, guarded by the dragons of eternity. It will be in my safe deposit box. The same applies to the object that is my one weakness. So the problem with that is that you could do that, and then it's like, so we just have to break into a subway system? Yeah. Oh. That's actually kind of interesting, because then you can have, instead of them having to fight through the dragons and stuff like that, which are cool, like you can instead have it so that the subway system is in fact a trap, and that it's there, but they still have to get there. Or maybe it's just in your safe, in your in your castle under your bed or something. This is something that you can use in all sorts of ways. So to defeat the villain, the orb of prophecy, he kept it. Where? My scrying senses sense a bed. Ugh. Ugh. He seems to be occupied. But it's definitely under, the balcony. Or the balcony bed. What's it called? The bed with all the drapes. That's a funny scene. That's a really funny scene. Number 6, I will not gloat over my enemy's predicament before killing them. I mean, that's reasonable. Uh, like, gloating serves a purpose. It helps reinforce the villain's evil, reminds people of the evil they've done, as well as give them this charismatic will moment. Their will is triumphant, and that's a very heady feeling. Um, so it's like you don't need any sort of gloating. Many villains, go out without any gloating. But if you have the greatest swordsman in the land fighting your hero, he's going to have a pride the size of the Empire State Building, and he's not going to be quiet about it. And so then we have number 7. When I've captured my adversary and he says, oh, by the way, for number 6, if they're standing over them with a gun, maybe that's not the best time to gloat if it's in the middle of battle. But, And he says, look, before you kill me, will you at least tell me what this is all about? I'll say, no. And shoot him. No. On second thought, I'll say, I'll shoot him. Then say no. This is kind of like 6.A. You can do that, but the thing is, if nobody understands what the villain is doing, there's not going to be any sense of the evil progression of this dude. Like, everyone knew where Thanos was coming from, what he desired, and what he was willing to sacrifice. It's why Endgame Thanos is less satisfying than Infinity War's Thanos, because he's basically saying he doesn't even describe his motivation in Endgame. He's basically says, you know what? I'm just going to wipe out the universe and recreate it in my image. And everyone's like, oh, and it's like, it's supposed to be a ramping moment. But the thing is, we haven't seen, this is a Thanos that is different from the Thanos of Infinity War because he pulled in a different part of the timeline. So it's a bit arbitrary and it doesn't quite fit for him as much as people might think. So it's like him just going, yeah, this is it. And then starting to try and kill them. Uh, the speech wasn't what it needed to be. Either they needed no speech where he's like, you have the, so you have the Infinity Gauntlet. I'll take that. He didn't need he knew what was going on because he saw Nebula's memories. But he still needed a sort of progression which just wasn't there. Anyway, number 8. But it needs to be there for other villains who are less developed. Like if we didn't know what uh, what Casper or Goth Solus from Galaxy's Edge was about through various novels and the things he says and does, then we wouldn't know. But he doesn't ever rant about it. We have chapters from his perspective. You can use that to replace the motive rant. There we go. Where he does like motive rant himself. Anyway. At number 8. After I kidnap the beautiful princess, we will be married immediately in a quiet, full ceremony. Not lavish spectacle in 3 weeks' time, during which the final phase of my plan will be carried out. So you can do that, but the thing it doesn't really mean much. Like it's like, well, okay. Let me step back a minute. Lord Farquaad actually had a relatively small service. He was in the cathedral that was there. It wasn't crazy, and he was kind of just rushing it. Then we have something like, I know some of the Final Fantasies do this. This is the princess of another kingdom getting married to the emperor of another one. There needs to be pomp and circumstance. You see, there's no point in having a king or having an emperor or having whatever if there isn't any to show off the wealth and power of the kingdom. Otherwise, you just have some sort of Conan the Barbarian warlord. Conan barely wanted to wear any regalia. He just wore his armor. Sometimes he threw a cloak over his shoulders and a crown. And it wasn't even that crazy a crown either. And people had problems with him. They viewed him as an uncouth barbarian. Even though he loved the arts and supported the arts, even as the arts tried to stab him. So it's like you can do that. Like this is something that you can do, but it's not gonna be the same thing. If a priest just standing there and like you've got her parents over a boiling lake of lava, and it's like sign the document. Like just that's a lot of effort for something that everyone's going to be like, yeah, she signed in duress. But a large and lavish spectacle, why, that makes the peasants happy. It makes them believe the war is over and that everything is all right. Don't go out of the capital though, and don't say anything against the emperor. But everything is all right. You see, there's symbolism to the wedding. There's meaning to it that you can add into your story to create a better feeling for it, to create depth, even though if it's shallow, even though she's swooped away by the hero riding a wyvern, you still want to have that moment where she has to walk down the aisle. She's like, is there anything I can do? You could have a moment where she like puts the knife to her chest. It's like, oh, what should I do? Should I slay myself to save my people? All nonsense, all the things that you want to put in there. Um, and then, she's walking down the aisle, step, step, step. Oh, what a beautiful bride, what a beautiful wedding, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and then, just as she's about to make some sort of statement, say I do or whatever, it's the perfect moment for the hero to swoop in, grab her by the waist, throw her behind him on his trusty wyvern, and fly away. Like you need a certain amount of spectacle in novels, otherwise it's kind of boring. Like hard sci-fi, people might say, doesn't have spectacle. Well, the spectacle is the dude figuring out how to create a mass, an asteroid accelerator on the moon to bombard the Pentagon. It's like, yes, here's the math, and it's, ooh, fascinating. But then there's that payoff when the asteroid drop happens, you see? Or if it's something like a mystery, the climax and the denouement, move in one to another. We have the murder, and then it goes, mystery, 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 another murder, mystery, mystery, mystery. Then the sleuth figures it out. Everyone's in a room. You're probably wondering why I gathered you here today. Chris Hansen drops out. Take a seat. You're the murderer. Um, so on and so forth. If you don't have that spectacle, it'll sort of lower the expectation of it. If let's say that let's turn it around though. Let's say that the princess actually does love the villain. She's gothy as all get out. She's like, I love the way you slaughter the civilians. Uh, you know, that's a quiet thing is fine. You could have a gothy cathedral. So there's this dude in a top hat and black, garters and all that jazz, playing on an organ, fugue in D minor or whatever it's called. Um, and then you have her, do you love him? I don't. Do you, will you work with him? I will betray him at the first circumstance. Will you, have and to hold forever? He's mine until I put the knife in his heart. And then he's like, I hate you too. I know. I promised myself I wouldn't cry. And then, of course, the blood sacrifices begin, where the princess will be sacrificed to the goth girl's god, blah, 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 so the hero can swoop in with a wyvern or sneak in or Metal Gear Solid his way in, who knows, Point is that you're right. You're absolutely right. Logically, he wouldn't do that. But the thing is, the peasants expect the captured princess to be paraded through the city as if she's happy. Like, it depends what you want to do. If he's doing it for love, guess what? She's probably not the type of princess a hero should be cavorting with. Or if he's doing it for politics, if it's politics, it has to have the spectacle or something like it. There has to be something. It can't just happen in a vacuum. Number 9. I will not include a self-destruct mechanism unless absolutely necessary. If it is necessary, it will not be a large red button labeled danger, do not push. The big red button labeled do not push will instead trigger a spray of bullets on anyone stupid enough to disregard it. Similarly, the on and off switch will not be clearly labeled as such. Absolutely. Hide it behind passwords. Like if you're doing some sort of not like Death Star, right? This isn't the Death Star we're talking about. We're talking about, like the computer mainframe or the super weapon. The on and off switch should be ripping out its power source. Like it's always more dramatic to rip out the power source than it is to push a button. So in any case, as a writer, you shouldn't even be thinking about them hitting a giant on off switch. Though, if you got some fodder lying around for the hero side, oh, look at that! He's got an on off switch. And he's like, no, it's a trap. Splat. you know, Hilarious. It's actually kind of funny to me anyway. Like if you got that sort of story, if you got a more grim one, you could have the thief character go, wait a minute, my sixth sense is off, and then he figures that out. Like you can add the tension there as it goes on, and it's like reaching towards the village, and it's like they have to figure it out in time. A lot of great way to do tension. Last one, number 10. I'll be doing all of them in sequence though. I will not interrogate my enemies in the inner sanctum. A small hotel well outside my borders will work just as well. Problem with that is that it opens you up to their friends capturing them back, which is a good plot point. Like having a scene where it's like, okay, so like let's say you got the trio, the hero, the love interest, the lancer. Let's say that the hero's captured and they're going to torture him. the love interest in the Lancer can come in to save his bacon, and it's a great way to have a book from their perspectives and how they interact with each other. Are they brother and sister? Are they ancient love interests? Or is the Lancer like, secretly, he was in the special forces or something? Like you can do a whole bunch of stuff in it to reveal their character without the hero's presence there, as well as sort of have a dark day for the hero, when they got the nipple clamps on him and they're hooking him up to the battery. Like what does he think about? What is he doing? Will he stay strong? Will he like want to break? Like there's a certain amount of like people might say, "Oh, I won't break. I won't do this. I won't do that." When in reality, um, you can't even have them keep a schedule. If they can't keep a schedule, if they can't pay you back on your food, they won't keep your secrets. Like it's one of those things. Like if you aren't a good person with strong moral character and beliefs, you're probably not going to stand up under torture unless it's something that's incredibly important to you. So in that case, a small hotel well outside my borders, in fact, would be a great plot thing. The reason why they do the inner sanctum is because it's the inner sanctum. You would have to storm the castle to save the hero, which in itself is also a great way to do it from another way. It's like he fought for us, he slew the dragon, and if we can't fight for him, it's a great moment to rally the cause. And now the rebellion isn't just a rebellion, it's an army. Um, Overall, I love this list. It's great, and honestly, this thing is like the original tropes sort of deal from like 1996, and it's honestly so much fun to read and to think about. I'm not going to do the cell blocks or anything like that, but because they get a little bit repetitive. Um, but these things are GeoCities. There's GeoCities. Ah! But that's like the original Yahoo and Google sort of thing. Back in like the 90s. Sorry. Um, But if you think about it too hard, if you follow this list to a T, you'll have a too strong enemy and a kind of boring story. The real skill is about taking these ideas and seeing why they were made and why they can be, or how they can be subverted. And I don't mean subverted in the sense of, like it's all gay now, but more in the sense of, like, say, take shooting is not too good for my enemies. Maybe it is too good. Maybe he's a guy with a sword. You know, the spirit of it is to just kill them, or you can supervert it. You can say, the noble half brother I usurped, you try to kill him but he escapes. Or maybe you can't do it. Maybe the last bit of humanity in your overlord's heart is his flesh and blood, and maybe his thing is to try and overcome that weakness, and in the end make it so that he can't. And in the end, it's a good message of family cannot be broken by evil, or something like that. There's so much you can do with this. I'll continue on all my way through it. It's nice, easy content, but it's also something I want to bring back into people's attention. Thank you very much for watching this video on Superversive SF, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening.